Hi, I'm Claire.
Christy and Janine. We're three marketers that have spent decades in talent tech and recruitment, facing the same challenges and watching the same mistakes play out over and over again.
We started What's the Point because we're tired of the fluff, vanity marketing, and wasted budgets that never drive real growth.
This podcast is straight talk for marketers and leaders who want marketing that actually works. No jargon, no egos, just hard-won lessons and practical advice that will help you scale your business.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of What's the Point. We are going to be talking all about pricing today, and we're joined by our guest, John Brooks. We're going to be talking about how can you defend, how can you set up, improve your pricing strategy, and really make it count for your business. So, hey, how are you doing, John? Do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and your area of expertise?
Yeah, good to see you all. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm John Brooks. I help recruitment leaders with their pricing strategies. I am the pricing strategist for the recruitment industry. There is no one else who does what I do, which I find a little shocking, but from my business perspective, that suits me quite nicely.
It's brilliant to have a niche and own a niche, as we all know.
Exactly.
Are we going to dive straight in? Because I think, pricing is very much part of our staple book of kind of like concepts, but also strategies as well. And it leans into so many aspects of marketing strategy. But what is your version of that mix? How does it all fall together for you? What's the difference, if you like, between positioning, content, packaging, the message and the value proposition, etc., and pricing?
Yeah, I mean, sorry to use your own strapline, but pricing is the point. If you do brilliant marketing, there you go. I got it in early as well.
Well done. Extra points.
Thanks, John.
If you are building this premium brand, this premium understanding of your market, you're going out and you're really positioning yourself as this incredible thing, and you don't get your clients to pay you a premium for that, what was it all for? You have built your business. Yes, you've built your business for freedom and passion and drive and everything else, but businesses are set up to make money. So if you are investing in all of those amazing things you can do with marketing, and then you are not capturing that value you've created, capturing that premium, then you've missed the point.
Interesting. How do you go about building a pricing strategy?
Yeah, so it is very marketing focused. It is not just, let's change the numbers, let's change our fee. The important thing is you need to understand what your clients value. And that's hard. Yeah, that's not an easy thing to do. But understanding what they value and then understanding the value that you can deliver, and obviously mapping those 2 points to say, well, this is my position in the market. This is what I'm capable of supporting, or what I could be capable of supporting my clients and my market with. And then presenting that, packaging those services in a way that clients can see that value. Because there's a real danger that, I think we've all worked with great recruiters and great agencies who we know they offer real quality, but they're not able to differentiate themselves from their competitors. So they have to price themselves, they have to match their competitors, or they have to discount in order to win business, even though we as kind of insiders can see that they're above average.
I think that brand piece, or the differentiation piece is so critical, because for so long we have traded as an industry on pretty much speed, price, and our people. In a contingency model, particularly, the speed is literally, there's 5 recruiters vying for the same job. Whoever gets in there first is the winner. So what does that actually mean now? When you're saying, it sounds, are you talking about the productization of it, the added value? What does added value mean to you, John?
Yeah, so I think it's understanding what clients want. And I think recruiters in general have been stuck on the idea that we have a product that is a candidate, and what clients see as success, see as the only job to be done, is to fill the seat. And actually, that really devalues what we offer. Yeah, and there's so much value. Yeah, and I sit down with recruitment leaders, and they say, "Oh, yeah, but what else do clients really value?" Actually, they value an expert helping them through the whole process. I use a lot of analogies. I love to use airline analogies, and the idea that you might be flying from London to New York. Well, actually, some people want an amazing experience. They want comfort, luxury, and all of those things. And other people who are in the same plane trying to get to the same place don't value all of those things, so pay less. So people who can afford and value that will pay for first class tickets. People who don't value some of those things pay for business class or economy class. And I think, to extend the analogy, we've often just said, we'll get you to New York.
Yeah.
And there's no discussion about the journey and what you value in that journey.
And why the price is what it is, right? So if you can't articulate why someone should pay what they have to pay, arguably you haven't done enough work on your positioning then.
Yeah, when I'm feeling mean, I'll put a survey out and I'll ask recruitment leaders. So yeah, why is your price what it is?
What it is.
Even if it's a standard, like the standard way of pricing currently, why is it that?
Well,
even
let's
if you can't
unpick
answer
that then a bit, because again, I think demystifying the how it's all built and how it's all layered together also, I think, could probably give that insight into how strategies can be formed and also aligned with other elements of the brand proposition, of the marketplace that you're operating in, and that key sort of economic drivers as well, that where your business sits. So if you're recruiting for nurses, for example, it's going to be a very different proposition for if you're recruiting for finance directors, because the marketplaces are very different, right? So can pricing strategies be the same for all agencies, or do they have to have that sort of individualized makeup of the market that you're operating in, the people that you're recruiting for, the salaries that are going to be that end result?
The scarcity, the expectation, the market,
it's
the kinds of
supply and
companies
demand.
that...
Like, if we go back to marketing 101, it's how do you position your business to compete effectively in that marketplace?
And that's my point about being able to articulate your positioning, I think, because whether it's a nurse or an FD, it's the service and the effort that you need to go to. Like, those, if not, are both equally fairly hard to find, right? Nurses are in massively short demand. So a finance director might get paid an awful lot more money, but are they easier to find? What's your process?
Yeah.
And what's your positioning in the market in terms of, to your point, John, in terms of what the experience is for those people that come through? And then, okay, what are we pricing that as? Because I don't think, for me, it shouldn't be based on sector.
Well, let's let John answer.
What's
He's
your
the
take?
expert.
Well, there was a lot of questions in there, so
Sorry.
We've got
The
all of the
debate.
questions,
Yeah.
and this is this is the point of the podcast, really, is to pull out as many insights as possible. And I think, from your perspective, John, where do you start? I suppose that's where we're getting to, isn't it? Where do you start?
Yeah, I think first of all, what do you want your business to be? And I have a rose-tinted view of our industry, because I think people who want to build high quality, high value premium businesses come to me and say, help me do that. So I then say, most recruiters in my view look pretty good. Of course, there's a whole range of recruiters I'm not working with. What's confusing, I think, well, you want to avoid confusion. The whole point of strategy is to know what you're doing and know what you're not doing. So if you see a business where the leader is saying, yes, we're premium, we put so much effort in, we go 110% for all our clients, and we have a fairly incoherent, heavy discounting strategy as well, then that doesn't make sense. You're doing it wrong. There's nothing wrong with running a business and saying, Amazon run on 3% profit margins. That's fine. And they've built their business with that as a strategy. What you don't want to do is, Harrods don't have a 3% profit margin. They have a much, much higher profit
Isn't it
margin.
like 300%?
And management. I don't know.
And that's what you're saying, because the 3% is the volume play. So if you do enough volume, 3% is still going to make you, have some good earnings. If you're doing, to take your Harrods example, I wish it was a volume play, and I wish I was the recipient of it, but it's not a volume play. It's scarce. You're making fewer sales, and I mean that's why it has the price tag it has, and therefore there's the quality piece in it. So, if I'm understanding correctly, John, you're just saying it's okay to have either strategy, but just know what the ultimate goal is out of it, and fit your products or services to the strategy that you're aiming for.
Yeah. And I mean, something we'll probably talk about more, but it's really powerful to give clients a choice of services. So going back to the airplane analogy, rather than saying, I can take you to New York, it's like, well, what experience you want? How do you want to get to New York? That's how you identify what different clients value. We're still doing recruitment for them. But what type of recruitment, what level of recruitment? I talk to recruiters who say, I give everyone the gold standard, my gold standard service. And I'm like, what if some people don't value that? What if some people do value, speed over quality of service? Actually giving them a choice, packaging that and having that conversation at the start is much more effective than trying to give everyone your gold standard. And then some of them saying, well, you're a bit slow. You kept talking to me. I just needed some CVs, for example.
Do you find people know that? You're, working with your clients, do people know what their customers need or want?
I think they do. Yeah. A recent example, we had this exact conversation. What do your clients value? And actually, the leader I was working with, we went through their customer feedback. So, in that example, in many of the clients the recruitment agencies I've worked with, whether it's Google reviews, whether it's customer surveys, any of those kind of things, they have the data, they have the answers to what do our clients value, what do our current clients get frustrated by. The other thing I think is really important, I called that data, very soft but high quality data, is that every consultant is talking to their clients all of the time. So that knowledge is in our heads. And sometimes it takes a bit of time to get it out there. So yes, we can survey our clients and do all of those things, but more often than not, we've got really rich experiential data of what our clients value, what frustrates them, when they've already paid more, when they've already asked for more. Sometimes I'll sit down with consultants to say, well, where have we gone the extra mile? Like, define that. And they say, oh yeah, we did this. Obviously charge the same price as we always do. It's like, okay, so some of our clients we're servicing at a higher level. We're offering a premium service, a premium experience, and everyone gets the same price. So there are clear opportunities to turn that into, well, hang on, let's create a premium package and price that accordingly. And let's create other packages that fit other parts of the market.
I think there's the tendency to start, if you're talking in, bronze, silver, gold kind of, that to use the sort of three buckets. I think there's a tendency, and even if I think about it from a sort of SaaS lens in terms of packages, again, that you're paying for and accessing, there is that real kind of like, well, I always want to be gold, but I'm not paying that rate kind of situation. And I think there is that expectation of tying that in. So how do you get a business holistically to understand the difference between the offer and the value. And what is that? Is there something tangible? Is there a workshop, a training session, a framework that you can kind of go, right, well, you do these 3 things, but you don't do that. You don't do that.
Yeah, sorry, in terms of getting the clients to understand that, I think what a lot of people say to me is we're not salesy. There's a whole range of recruiters out there, but a lot of them will say that. And it's like, well, let's be more consultative. If we're going out with a one size fits all single service, then we're just saying, yeah, buy it. And we get to the price point very quickly because there's nothing else to say. I mean, we could monologue for a long time about that service, but the client's not engaged in that. The client's thinking about, did they leave the oven on, or their FD's got a meeting with them next, or whatever. They can tune out of that. Whereas if we have a consultative conversation about, hang on, what's valuable to you? Is a high-speed service valuable to you? Is a white glove concierge service valuable to you? And we've packaged those up so they look professional, they look on brand, they fit the message, they fit the experience the client has had or the prospect has had to that point. And then we have that consultative conversation. What I find for recruiters, for the individual consultant, it's an easier conversation and it's a higher quality conversation than just going in and saying, hey, yeah, I can recruit that role.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of a closed question, isn't it? This is the cost, yes or no. You know,
well, I always find
it's a bit one of those, isn't it?
I find it amazing whenever I'm hiring for a role, and I just wait. I wait for the e-shots to come in, and I'll normally get, let's say 10 e-shots, and maybe there's an outlier, maybe there's one that doesn't do this, but pretty much they all give me a one-liner, literally or one-liner and a boilerplate. Oh, are you still hiring for your marketing manager role? We can help. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I am the marketer in industry I'm in, cheekily go back and be like, okay, tell me what your fees are. I just do that. What's your fee? Somebody tells me 10%. Somebody tells me 25%. Some people tell me 30%. Somewhere in there, 10 of them, all different ones. Not a single one of them have told me what they're doing differently for that price. I literally got the identical email, give or take, and they all just told me their price. Not to mention, they all told me, they've never spoken to me. They don't know me. They've literally told me the price off of me. Just what's your cost?
Respond.
And they came back right away.
Because
you must be burning hearing this, John. But that's, I think, if you think like your customer, if you try to, put yourself in the shoes of the customer, that's effectively what they're getting, or at least maybe even have a bit of, swagger to say, well, if that's what my competitors are doing, let me show them how I can be that consultative person, because that'll very quickly cut through that noise.
Well, no, that cut through, we want to be differentiated. Recruitment agencies are trying really hard to stand out. And price is critical to positioning. It's a real statement for positioning. You go in at 30% versus that 10%. That is a big statement in positioning, but you can't just leave it there. You can't say, oh, we're 3 times more than everyone else.
But you've not told you why.
But I'll say as well, one of the tactics, the things that I would work with always from a commercial reality perspective is you mentioned it earlier, John, consultative kind of approach. And a consultative sell will always start with building trust and establishing a relationship. The services that you offer as an agency or a recruiter are kind of obvious. And if you've got a good website, it will tell you not just the recruitment, but it'll also tell you the wraparound additional services that you've got available to you if you engage. But you've got to have a point of reference for the relationship, I think. And if you are kind of looking at that premium pricing strategy, you wouldn't ever lead with it. Like for me, that is like, I would definitely not work with any of those people. One that responded directly with it's 10%, 12, 20%, whatever. Even, the
scarily
lowest
they
version.
all do. I mean,
just so I would say an immature sales approach, which I think also as well is one of the sort of, I suppose, industry problems is that the the reputation of old, and again I'm talking and aging myself, but that whole sort of like, same as an estate agent, it's price first. You know what you're getting. It's standard recruitment.
The customer assumes they're getting the same thing. That's actually it. Our industry has kind of programmed the customer. Just not everybody, obviously. There's some who do definitely value it, but as a very base level, the end customer thinks they're getting the same thing. So why are you 30% and this person's 10%? And at the end of the day, I'm going to get a bum on my seat, because we haven't given them this is what economy looks like. This is what first class looks like. Yeah. Oh, by the way, when you get to New York, would you like to go on a helicopter excursion? Do you need insurance?
Can we take your bags off? Can we get you a car?
Can we get you a car service? Yeah. Airlines, you've totally nailed it, John, because the airline, they really they've done quite a good job of it of late, whether or not they actually do what they say they're going to do, but they've maximized the heck out of their commercials.
Yeah.
But we're just not doing it,
But it's always been set up like that to a degree, hasn't it, in airlines? Whereas I think in recruitment, that rod has almost always been created. It's already there.
It kind of feels like
there's a level of pricing. Yeah, all right, between 10 and 30 maybe, but
different markets, different.
It's a percentage of salary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And is that the thing then? Is it the challenge that it's not about pricing on the salary, because you've got different models as well. So let's talk a bit about the models of pricing for especially recruitment businesses, right? So it's been traditionally a percentage of a permanent salary. Mm-hmm. It's what on an hourly rate, a contractor rate. So it's a margin there. Then you've got RPO. So you kind of do a service fee plus then additional incremental placement bandwidths and whatever that might be.
Which, having been in one of those teams, tends to be built off how many roles we're going to do at what percentage. So it's not that different.
Not that different.
It's just
the numbers. Yeah.
Well, this is, I think, one of the areas that the businesses who are contingent going into, who want to do embedded or RPO, get wrong. Yeah. They go in and say, oh, you have 100 roles. Okay, 100 roles times 20%. Ooh, this is a cash cow. But they've never actually looked at how long does it actually take you to fill that? And I'm not actually, you're going to jump on me, John, because I'm not suggesting to actually say, body for hire, we're being by the hour, hire us to
cost
to
of delivery.
But what's the cost of delivery? What's your margin? What's the profitability off of it? To actually say, well, actually, if we did 100 roles at this level of profitability, as a bottom line number is much, much higher than only filling 20% of the roles at this, and we get recurring revenue and.
I'm going to add another one into that as well. So those agencies looking to create retained business where they work every month, and it may be 1 or 2 recs, it may be none, the next month could be 4 or 5, but every month they're more and more embedded within, I suppose it is the embedded solution, but it's that retained over a period of time. It might be 6 months, 12 months, it might be a project, it might be even a whole team, or even just bringing out, building out a function that you can then set up from scratch.
Added value.
And that added value piece and that service delivery. Go on.
I'm delighted. You've broken the word retainer. Retainer in recruitment tends to mean part of the fee up front, the rest on placement. Yeah. You've used a very common other definition, which is a monthly fee.
Retained,
for that's marketing speak, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what marketing retainers are.
So again, I'm sure the number of recruiters who go to marketers and lawyers and say, "Oh, can you pay me a retainer?" and the end client is thinking, "Hang on, I don't want to pay you monthly," and that's not even what we mean. So I'm not a big fan of talking about pricing models with clients. Yeah, we can use some jargon internally, but we know we need to talk about, we need to use words that are laden with value when we're talking to clients, not that are misunderstood. I think there are so many models. I was tempted to say tactics. The reason and I mean that in a derogatory sense, the models should tie into your strategy. So there's you've listed a load of really interesting models there, but they're only going to work if they tie into what you're doing. So if you're saying, hang on, we can provide ongoing value, and clients need that ongoing support, they value that, then you map that together and say, great. So an ongoing payment model is a great option. Just saying, hey, I'd love to get paid monthly.
Yeah.
That's more.
Doesn't quite
I
land the
really
same.
want some recurring revenue, so I'm going to just charge you this.
And I suppose that's the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
thing as well. You know, John, I'm sure you can. Is there more value in agencies having that reoccurring retainer in their model versus those that are contingency, or just get the pay as you go type model?
Pay as you go.
I can
No
drop that
win,
one
no
in too.
fee.
Well, no, oh wow, that
Oh.
would be quite. I think there is that, isn't there?
Well, that's
Yeah, that's
contingency.
contingent recruitment. No win, no fee.
That's just the hell that is contingent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, we've brought all this upon ourselves. We've trained our clients to understand this, and it will take a long time to get away from that. Yeah, if you want to sell, if you want to exit, then being able to show a potential buyer or an investor, oh, I've got 20 clients who are paying me every month and are going to continue paying me
Recurring.
for a significant portion of time, and I have an engine to onboard more of those people when there's churn. That's way more valuable. Imagine investing in something whereas it's no win, no fee. It's like, oh well, I can win some roles, but I have no idea if I'm going to place them or not.
Trowers and Hamlin's, the law firm, they put out their kind of, it's not official as a list, but they put out their valuation drivers every year. And mainly most of them stay pretty consistent, maybe a few different differences on them. But RPO or embedded has appeared on there for the last at least 2 or 3 years, maybe longer. That's how long I've been following it. That it is one of the drivers to get higher multiples for those seeking an exit or investment.
Is it possible as well to kind of run those models across all agencies, or is it only specifically defined or designed agencies that could offer that level of service provision?
Well, again, this is strategy building. So if you say, great, this is what I want to do, this is the kind of business I need to build, that's fine. That's our objective. Then we say, right, well, how do we build an agent? How do we build a business that does that? We don't just say, I'd like recurring revenue, I'll stick a recurring revenue model out there and hope some people buy it. So it's more of a turnaround to be able to do that. Having said that, especially more agile agencies, recruitment agencies do change a lot. So there are ways to do that.
I think there's even a fear a little bit in it. I remember speaking to somebody who's not that big an agency. I don't want to misquote, but maybe 8-person agency. And she sold her first RPO offering. And her direct quote was, one, she thought she couldn't do it because if an 8-person agency, how could they possibly, deliver that? But her words were, she says, it was imposter syndrome on steroids because she didn't think that they had the ability and the mechanisms to take that leap.
I was going to ask John, to your point about it being part of strategy, how can then, our audience is obviously a mix of business leaders and senior marketers. So how can leaders leverage marketing as part of that strategy, and how can marketers get involved?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chat in the pricing world, which is more than just me. There are other people who do this in other industries, and it's a whole mix of things. The pricing discipline, and obviously there's finance in there, there's sales in there. It's a C-level issue, but marketing is critical to that. If we look at a business and say, how could we understand our clients? How could we work out what they value, what they need, what their challenges are? Salespeople would pick up some of that, but a salesperson having a conversation with a potential client, there's going to be a few defensive walls down there. Marketing is perfectly positioned to understand the market. I think that's where the word comes from. You can tell me if that's not.
Shock horror.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm sure you have lots of conversations, and I've heard some of them about marketers wanted to be, marketers wanting to get away from being, the colouring in department, or even purely promotional strategy. It's not just getting our name out, actually understanding our markets and saying, I have I understand the different profiles of our clients, and I use those profiles to define what they want from us, how we can best help them, what they're willing to pay for, or where they would pay more, where they would pay less. So I think marketing's absolutely well positioned to do that.
We do. One of the questions, or one of the things we do in our brand workshops is if we do a customer candidate client survey as part of it, and one of the questions is this could be anything, hotel brand, car brand, whatever. We do car brand, but using a very specific example is we surveyed the employee base. What do you think you are? They all said a BMW. Very reliable, etc. You asked the customer, what did they think they were? And I forget exactly what it was, but it was kind of like that, maybe it was like a Volkswagen, like lower down than that. You asked the leadership, what do you think they thought it was? And it was like Aston Martin or something. So you have very, very different, very, very different opinions. And what you need to do with that information is either recognize that this is what your customer thinks you are, so let's actually evolve to that. Yeah. Or if you really want to be the Aston Martin, what do you need to do to change those opinions?
That marketing gap analysis piece, which actually, from a pricing strategy perspective, can be one of the levers that you pull in order to help that position piece. So I think you mentioned it right at the beginning, John. It's not just about the brand, it's the positioning, it's the message, it's what leadership aspire to be, it's what clients actually see. So you can bring all of that together. And I think, again, just dusting off the cobwebs of 100 years of marketing expertise and experience, it is going back to that fundamental principle of what have you got to sell? How are you selling it? What are you pricing it at? And who's really kind of critiquing that opportunity to experience what you've got to sell.
Well, I remember in university in one of my lectures, somebody said, Walmart makes more money than Hermes. You can sell that product. It makes more money than Hermes. If you want to be, in that space, own that space, be in that space. If you want to be in Hermes, whatever, Louis Vuitton, whatever you want to call it, own that space. But it does, but you can't just say that, it's discount, so it's bad. And I think actually our industry actually has gotten into that, like, they're so bad. They're so bad. Race to the bottom. They're paying 10%.
That rate card thing as well. It's like, we normally do it at this, but if you come in and tell me that, you've got another 2 or 3 recs coming up in the next 6 months, I'll do it at this rate. And it's like, you spoke about
feels very bargain.
Yeah, it does. It's like, I think it really massively undervalues the offer and the service, the professionalism and the service that's on offer.
Maybe John is our expert. I was going to say there must be an exclusivity partnership message in what Claire was saying, but just repackaged, repositioned.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring in a different word, which I think is critical in marketing and in pricing, which is consistency. And a lot of the marketing, and we don't do it. Recruitment, we're very bad. In marketing terms, I've worked in a marketing department before, and in pricing terms. And I think one of the great things about recruitment as an industry is the autonomy that consultants get, the salespeople. But that causes huge problems from a marketing messaging perspective, and it causes perhaps even more expensive problems from a pricing perspective. So you will have all the examples of people going out with their own messaging. Back in the day, it would be like, everyone's got to do a mail shot on a Friday or a Monday or whatever. What are we going to write about today? And you get 100 different people writing 100 different things, and it's just like, let's see what works, and maybe they'll share them locally. So I don't want to wind you up too much on that, but to then tie that to pricing. The challenge there is that autonomy without that leadership from the top and the frameworks and the guidance on what good looks like. is the same type of client, even the same client, can get vastly different price quotes from what should be the same people. Yeah, two people almost in the same team under the same brand saying, oh, well, it's nearly the end of the month. I could do with this. Or, oh, well, if I'm up against someone else, I'll change my price. Whereas if you don't tell me I'm up against someone else, I'll try and hold firm. That's really messy. And again, if I want to scare people, I'll say, imagine two of your clients in the same room talking about having a good service from you, and then they say, oh, what do you pay? And if you feel a huge fear in your stomach, then that's because you've got zero consistency and you don't know why that price has gone out and you don't know why it's been discounted.
And quite often it can be client dictated, can't it? I think if you leave some of that to the strategy or decision making to the consultant, and the client says, oh, we only work at this, the answer is, not even 9 times out of 10, but probably 10 times out of 10. Okay.
Yeah. When I first moved to the UK, and it's quite, I'm Canadian, not American, but it's people are talking quite a lot right now that the fees are higher in the US. You don't get the same pricing pressure. And it was absolutely that 15 years ago when I first moved over here. And I remember London office, kind of green to the UK. And I remember the MD saying, we will not accept a deal under 20%. And the teams rebelled, they were angry and they were like, oh, how dare you? And yes, it took some change. There was change that had to happen in that. And there was comms and all kinds of stuff that went into it. But guess what? Profitability went up. Bottom line went up. It had the desired impact. And yes, you need to have, I said comms and change in this. Yes, marketing also part of that. And the sales leadership pulling that through and getting people on board. But if we're talking about profitability, and that's really what we're talking about, aren't we? We're talking about, growth in whatever way, in a profitable way. Maybe it takes that leader to make those hard decisions and just say, that's it.
That's the line.
That is the line.
But I think that comes back to a bit of strategy, which I'm sure you can talk better about than I can, John. But I think you could have also set that 21 and eventually everybody would have got to 21. It's like a lowest common denominator, right? Any business I speak to who's like, we don't do anything under this. Okay, how much business do you do at that? Yeah, 93% of what we do is now at that number because
they've never asked. They've never asked. Yeah, or they don't. They're not. The consultant isn't either empowered or trained to what
negotiate,
you need to be.
to have those conversations about value. To sell on value.
Well, they answer an email saying 10%. What's your rate? Oh, I'm 10%.
Because that's the minimum.
I'm 25% because they're not allowed to.
Picking up on Christy's point, the hardest way, and actually it's just not a successful way of doing it, is just to go to a sales team and say, you need to charge more now. You've given them no tools. You've just said, yeah, whatever, I'm not paying you bonus below 20%. You do get a revolt, and you've not helped them. Some of them will survive that, but that's an awful experience for the sales team. The more powerful way to do it is give them the tools. Let's talk profit for a minute. If you're averaging 15% as your classic perm fee, if you could get that average up to 18%, so it's still, that's not suddenly some crazy high 20s number or something. That's 20% more revenue from, assuming the same number of jobs, the same number of placements. You haven't had to increase headcount or anything else. You've just got 20% more revenue. One of the fun things on that is that growth doesn't have to be from your biggest fees. It can be actually cleaning up the worst fees. So that person who sent that email to Christy saying, oh yeah, 10%. So, well, hang on, no, let's cut that. Let's get that to 13. Suddenly, that's a 30% jump. So there are so many opportunities. Again, I kind of get into the data on this with people, but rather than just saying, oh, everything needs to be 22% now, or you can't go below 20. Actually, there's so many ways to lift the average, because so many things feed into that.
Is there a point, John, where you're like the penny drops for the business leaders and the consultants that you're talking to? Is it the money? Is it the profitability, or is it the value? Three very similar but very different kind of outcomes.
Yeah, so I've been doing this. I've been running my own consultancy for 6 years now, and to begin with, my messaging was very much, hang on, look at the revenue difference, look at the profitability difference. This is crazy. I mean, by the way, profitability, your revenue goes up 20%. That might double, triple, quadruple your profitability. We probably don't want to go into that now, but and I like to have a whiteboard to draw it all out. But yeah. So for the leaders, for the owners, that's critical. So a tiny improvement in price, in effect, it's all profit. Yeah. If someone was going to pay you £5,000 for a role and they pay you 5,400, that £400, yeah, you might give someone a bit of bonus on it, but you keep it. So that's the additional profit.
Sorry to interrupt, John, but I think it's also educating that profit, to a consultant. When you think of what's in it for them and their fee is like, well, if it means I don't get the fee, or I don't even get the job on because you've made me do this, or I can get the job on, for them, that the winner is, I just want the job on and I can get it. I get my bonus off of it. I think if there's that education of what profitability actually means for the business, profitability means, and I'm going to start with the consultant value system, but incentive trips. It means it does though.
Yeah,
it means all the extras. It means yes bonuses, but it means that reinvestment in the business. It means better technology to do their job better, faster. It means more marketing support to do their job better, faster, and make more commissions.
Yeah.
But profitability is not just going in the owner's pockets. Profitability, sometimes it does, but what it should do is in many and hopefully most cases, it's getting at least a portion of it's getting reinvested into doing all the nice stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to advance them as career. It's going to make them happier, motivated, all those things.
You have to align it. I've worked on many pricing related projects where you roll something out because you want an outcome. Yeah, let's take that recurring revenue. The owner says, brilliant, this would allow me to sell the business for more. Well, the individual consultant says, hang on, I don't want to sell something that brings in $4,000 a month. I want my 30K big hit, and I'll take a massive paycheck on that. So yeah, you do need to consider the motivators and the mindsets of the salespeople who are going out and talking about this, because again, it has to be aligned. What I was going to say though was, to begin with, I went out with that message about profitability, revenue, and all of that. And actually, I think it's deeper than that. I think the majority of recruitment leaders, they have a pride in their business. Yeah, we are people. We have people businesses. We are consultative. Almost all of us are aiming for high quality business. They want that pride. They want their sales team to have pride in what they do. Sorry, their consultants to have pride in what they do. And they want to build something better. So actually, my messaging nowadays is much more rounded. Yes, the reward and the outcome is better profits, but you create a higher quality business that you've got pride in and that your team are proud to work for. So as with so many things, there's a real mix of motivators going into it.
Well, I think that has been a very brilliant and comprehensive study of pricing strategy. So I'm going to ask you the question, John, what's the point?
Pricing is the point. So, marketing, you're investing in marketing to create your premium brand, your premium positioning, in order that your clients pay a premium for your services. And if you don't get the pricing right, you don't get that premium, so you don't get that return on all that investment.
John Brooks, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you all.